Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Wolbrook Skindiver Automatic. This watch is available from Wolbrook.com for €399 on the Tropic rubber strap and for €449 on the beads of ice bracelet. If you purchase the piece on the beads of ice bracelet, Wolbrook also supply it with a Tropic rubber strap. Wolbrook have a rich brand heritage. They were founded in 1949 in America, and Wolbrook is the sister brand to Douglas. Their watches are now made by MNP, manufacturer Horology in France, and Wolbrook and Douglas and also HGP are all made by MNP, manufacturer Horology in France. So firstly, let's look at the case that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a case which is made from leather and canvas, and that's housed inside this outer cardboard box. On the front of the box you can see it has this sticker which says clean for service, and this indicates that this piece has passed quality control inspection. So to clarify, Wolbrook watches are manufactured in France by MNP, manufacturer Horology. The quality control takes place in France, the assembly takes place in France, and the regulation of the calibers used also takes place in France. So this is the case. As you can see, it's made from fabric which is cotton and woven, and it's like denim fabric. And we also have the Wolbrook W in the circle, which is the brand emblem, and across the leather strap we have the Wolbrook text logo. Now you'll notice the similarity between this watch case and the watch cases used by HGP and also Douglas respectively, because as I've detailed, Wolbrook is the parent company and the sister brand of Douglas, and Wolbrook is also the parent company of HGP, so they use the same watch cases for all three brands. Inside we have this piece of cardboard, and it details the operation of the quick release spring bars used in the beads of ice bracelet, and also details how to remove the bracelet. Now it also serves a meaningful purpose. It has two cutouts, as you can see. This slots in between the case back and also the bracelet clasp, and it prevents the bracelet clasp rubbing against the case back when the watch is in transit and scuffing and scratching it, so it is good to get that included. Good attention to detail. Quality of the canvas and leather watch case is excellent, flawless stitching around the perimeter, and good to see genuine leather used rather than vinyl or PU leather. Lovely scent to the leather, and I like the weave of the cotton, which is like denim, and very aesthetically pleasing olive green tone to it. So good presentation. With regards to items that come with the piece, it also comes with this leaflet which you open, and inside it has the original adverts, because the original Wolbrook and Douglas Skindivers were made in the 1960s. The watch pictured was famously worn by Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong is famous, of course, for wearing the Omega Speedmaster moonwatch, but he also wore another watch, which was the Wolbrook Skindiver World Timer. And as you can see, this is an image of the Wolbrook Skindiver World Timer from the 1960s. This is the original advert from the 1960s. And on the reverse, it details all the various case backs used on the different models of Skindiver, and very nice to see that detail. One also gets this certificate of authenticity and warranty card, and I'm pleased to report that this Wolbrook Skindiver Automatic is covered by a 3-year international warranty. On the reverse, we have the serial number of the piece, Wolbrook.com, and the date of purchase, and it also thanks you for purchasing the piece. You can download the owner's instruction manual from Wolbrook.com, and it gives you the link my.wolbrook.watch, and that will specifically download the owner's instruction manual for this piece, the Wolbrook Skindiver Automatic, detailing the operation of the movement used, which is the Miyota caliber 8315 automatic. I want to give due credit to Wolbrook here, because often low tier pieces, and to remind you and clarify, low tier is €0 to €500 price point. Often low tier pieces are only covered with a 12-month or 2-year international warranty. To get 3 years of international warranty is excellent at this price point, and Wolbrook deserve full credit for that. One also gets this cardboard envelope, as you can see, and it also has the hashtag Pioneers in Command if you want to share images of your piece on socials. Inside this, it contains 2 stainless steel spring bars, which are spares to the spring bars fitted to the beads of ice bracelet and also the Tropic rubber strap, which I'll show you. This cardboard envelope, as you can see, which has a string securing the flap, also has a sticker on the front which says clean for service, and this indicates that the strap has also passed quality control inspection in France. And inside it houses this, which is the Tropic rubber strap, and this is excellent quality. Solid 316L grade stainless steel buckle and tang, flawless brush satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks, engraved with high definition engraving with the Wolbrook text logo. On the reverse, on the top right corner, if you look closely, you can see it is engraved with the NSA emblem, which is the triangle and circle. NSA made bracelets and also watch straps in the 1960s for a plethora of brands. They manufacture them in Switzerland. NSA is also now owned by Wolbrook as well as Douglas and HDP, and they manufacture their straps and also the bracelets for HDP, Douglas and Wolbrook respectively. On the reverse, it's also engraved with 316L, 16mm, which is the width of the buckle, and the serial number. So this is a genuine Tropic strap. So if you look at the reverse, you can see, just bear with me, I'll get the camera to focus, it says vulcanized rubber as per the original Tropic straps used in the 1960s and 1970s. Standard stainless steel spring bars. Now, one could be subjectively critical of this and say it could be further enhanced with quick release stainless steel spring bars, but however, in this case I'm not going to be critical. So why is that? Well, the original Tropic rubber straps from the 1960s and 1970s did not use quick release stainless spring bars. This is true to the original. They use standard stainless steel spring bars. This has the original grid formation to it, as you can see, fully perforated, and the perforations serve a meaningful purpose as well as being aesthetically pleasing. They allow for sweat and perspiration to wick away from the wrist so the strap dries out quickly, and also allow for seawater to wick away from the wrist, and they also allow for air circulation. So in warmer weather or when one is active, this allows for air circulation and it makes the strap very comfortable. Texture pattern to the top side, and we've got two sliding keepers as per the original. It's made from NBR rubber. So NBR stands for nitrile butadiene rubber. So to put that into perspective, NBR nitrile butadiene rubber is as hard and robust as natural rubber. It's harder and more robust than FKM floor rubber, which you may be familiar with, and it is harder and more robust than silicone rubber, which again you'll be familiar with. So FKM floor rubber is a compromise between the two, NBR and silicone. Really, in terms of durability, in terms of robustness, nitrile butadiene rubber is the ultimate, like natural rubber. The reason why NBR is superior to FKM rubber and also silicone rubber is because it is chemical, acid and ultraviolet light resistant. And NBR nitrile butadiene rubber is often used in the automotive and aeronautical industries as a result due to its properties of being chemical, acid and ultraviolet light resistance. It's particularly useful for rubber gaskets, rubber O-rings and seals due to the aforementioned properties. It also is an excellent material for straps due to its durability. So I'll show you the other side now. They also include a wider single keeper. So to clarify, it comes with the two sliding keepers because they appreciate some collectors, for example with larger wrists, prefer to have two sliding keepers, but some collectors with a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inch wrists or below, they prefer just a single wider keeper. So they include both, so you have the option. On the reverse you can see it says vulcanized rubber embossed as per the original Tropic straps, and again the underside is textured as per the original, fully perforated, plenty of holes. This will fit from a 6 inch to an 8 inch wrist size. In terms of how soft and supple it is, now, the negative subjectively of NBR or nitrile butadiene rubber is it is stiffer. It's more like natural rubber, and it is stiffer than FKM floor rubber, and it is stiffer than silicone rubber, but as I've detailed, it's more robust and it's more durable. So one has to balance the two. Which is more important to you? If you want very soft and supple and comfort level, silicone rubber is the best option. Compromise between the two is FKM floor rubber because it's soft and supple and durable. But if you're looking for robustness, if you're looking for durability long term, a strap that's going to last for a long length of time, really NBR nitrile butadiene rubber is the ultimate. So beautiful vanilla scent to it, that's what I like about it. It's got a gorgeous scent. Feels smooth on the underside despite being textured as per the original Tropic straps from the 1960s and 1970s. I like that it's got two keepers, and you can exchange the two keepers for the single keeper, as you can see. Plenty of adjustments on it, good to have the option. And I don't mind that it's got standard stainless steel spring bars versus quick release stainless steel spring bars because this is true to the original. So quality is excellent, nice to get that included. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 40mm case diameter we have a 48mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 13.3mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The beads of rice bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push clasp. So we have the perfection personified taper, 20 to 16, that I often refer to. It is the industry standard for good reason. Visually, it is aesthetically very pleasing. For a 40mm head of the piece, 20 to 16 cannot be beaten. It is the perfect taper. 2-button push clasp, as you can see, embossed with a Wolbrook W emblem to a good standard, and we have 5 micro adjustment holes in the left and the right hand flanks as an alternative to a ratcheting micro adjustment system. I'm not going to be critical of the absence of a ratcheting micro adjustment clasp to give on the fly adjustment, because one has to appreciate this is effectively a heritage reissue of the original Wolbrook Skindiver from the 1960s. So to clarify, Wolbrook is the sister brand of Douglas, and both Wolbrook and Douglas produced the Skindiver in the 1960s, and this is the style of clasp they were using, but this is actually a heavier gauge. It's solid milled 316L grade stainless steel. The original clasps used on their bracelets, made by NSA, made in Switzerland, were pressed. This is better quality, but it does have 5 micro adjustment holes, which does suffice in the absence of half links in the beads of rice style bracelet. I like the longitudinal ribs, which are the same as the clasp used on the HGP diver and also the Douglas Skindiver, which I previously reviewed. They all use the same NSA clasp. Very aesthetically pleasing, but the way the ribs in the clasp catch the light, and the 5 micro adjustment holes are good. No sharp edge to the top edge or the lower edge of the clasp. Doesn't have sharp corners. It's been deburred and chamfered very well. Brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks. No sharp edge to the undercut, so it's very comfortable and low profile. We have a boxed top hat double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished handset. The handset is true to the original, with the exception of the second hand, because you can see it has a circular dot loom pip. The original Wolbrook Skindiver from the 1960s had a different second hand, but however, the pencil hour hand is true to the original, and the triangle arrowhead tip to the larger minute hand is true to the original. Now, subjectively, purist Wolbrook collectors will be critical of Wolbrook not using the exact same handset. The second hand is different, but this is subjective because for the majority of collectors, I appreciate this is not going to be detrimental. The handset does visually look similar in terms of proportion and shape to the original Skindiver from the 1960s. They've just changed the second hand to a more contemporary look with the circular dot loom pip. Dial layout is true to the original. It's got the iconic large Arabic numerals 12, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10. However, there is one notable difference between the original Wolbrook Skindiver from the 1960s and this heritage reissue respectively. If you look at 3 o'clock, you can see the date complication is absent. Now again, subjectively, some collectors will be critical of this because purist Wolbrook collectors would prefer the dial was perfectly true to the original and had a date complication. And subjectively, one could be critical and say, well, this is powered by the Miyota caliber 8315 automatic, which is a date complication caliber. The date wheel is present, the date complication hasn't been deleted, so why not use it? That would be the argument. I personally like the symmetry of the dial with the 12, 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10 Arabic numerals with the absence of the date complication at 3. I like symmetrical dials versus asymmetrical with a date complication, but this really is subjective. It comes down to whether you like watches with a date complication or do you prefer the clarity, the legibility and the functionality of the perfect symmetry of a dial without a date window. I'm just going to move the minute hand out of the way so you can see the text on the dial better. So dial layout is true to the original. Font of the Arabic numerals is the same. Black minute ticks contrast very well with a matte yellow dial, and we've also got small Arabic numerals at 5, 10, 15 and so on. Now, in terms of dial layout, it is true to the original because we have the Wolbrook text logo in the same font at 12 o'clock, which is good. Skindiver, shock resistant, and then we have 15 ATM/150 meters. Now, this is something I'm going to be critical of. This piece is 150 meters. Now, one has to appreciate the original Wolbrook Skindiver from the 1960s was only water resistant to 100 meters. Now, they have updated this to 150. This watch, to clarify, does meet all the criteria of ISO 6425. So what does ISO 6425 mean? Well, there are 2 core criteria that the ISO 6425 specifies. A dive piece must be 100 meters water resistant and it must also have a screw down crown. So for example, If this were 100 metres and it used a push-pull crown, as per the Seiko 5KX for example, it would not meet ISO 6425. It needs to have a screw-down crown plus 100 metres. So it exceeds that because clearly this is 150 metres with a screw-down crown. However, it is not 200 metres, which is the industry standard for dive pieces. Now, the reason why I'm going to be critical of it is I previously reviewed the Douglas Skindiver. That is 200 metres and it does have a screw down crown. So bear in mind, Wolbrook is the sister brand of Douglas, and of course the parent company is Wolbrook. They also manufacture HTP, and all three brands, Wolbrook, Douglas and HTP, are manufactured by MNP, manufacture Horology in France. So therefore they are capable of producing the Skindiver in 200 metres, because the Douglas Skindiver I reviewed was a 38mm, similar case, similar design. It's a heritage reissue of the Douglas Skindiver from the 1960s, but it had 200 versus this 150. I think they should update it to 200, that's the point I'm making. But in terms of the dial layout, Skindiver, shock resistant and 1580M/150M is true to the original, albeit they have updated it from 100 to 150. I like it. I like the fonts used. It's true to the original. Now, if you look underneath the 6 Arabic numeral, you can see it says France, because as I've detailed, the watch is assembled in France by MNP, manufacturer Horology, so that's true. Bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, concentric CNC lathe tool machining to it, engraved with black minute ticks and also Arabic numerals, which are infilled with black paint. Triangle as an alternative to a Lume pip, which is applied. The triangle is infilled with BGW9 Superluminova, as are the Arabic numerals printed on the dial and the handset. Good colour tone match between the triangle on the bezel, the Arabic numerals on the dial and also the handset. I like the concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the solid stainless steel bezel. It makes a refreshing change from using the default option of an aluminium bezel insert, alternatively ceramic bezel insert or sapphire bezel insert respectively. Coin edge finished. And the coin edge finishing is nice and fine, nice large chamfer on the top edge, which deletes the sharp tips, the coin edge teeth. The chamfer is mirror polished to a good standard. The box top hat crystal is 2mm thick and gives the piece a vintage aesthetic. Now to clarify, the original Wolbrook and also Douglas Skindivers made in the 1960s, including the one famously worn by Neil Armstrong, which was the Skindiver World Timer version, they all used Hesalite crystals. Now, Hesalite was popular in the 1960s, as well as acrylic and also plexiglass. It predated the use of mineral crystal and also sapphire crystal respectively in dive pieces. The negative of Hesalite, although it was very aesthetically pleasing, was that it was softer than sapphire crystal and therefore being prone to being scuffed and scratched. Visually, Hesalite does look very aesthetically pleasing. It does look like plexiglass and also acrylic. It does have that characteristic distortion and magnification effect due to its thickness. Sapphire crystal is better. It's harder and more scratch resistant. This is a box top hat profile double dome sapphire crystal, so it does give the aesthetic, it does give the look of a 1960s plexiglass crystal, but of course it's harder and more scratch resistant. The other benefit is this has clear AR coating on the underside, so one gets less distortion, one gets less magnification effect, because this is double domed. It's curved on the underside, curved on the top side, versus a plexiglass crystal which is flat on the underside, and therefore one gets the magnification and distortion effect when one tilts it at an oblique angle. So this is better. Looks good, does look like the original Skindiver from the 1960s, but of course modern day specifications, so they've got the balance correct. When a brand like Wolbrook or Douglas does a heritage reissue such as the Skindiver from the 1960s, they have to strike a balance between vintage aesthetic and modern day contemporary specification. For example, they could have used plexiglass. Now, when Douglas did a heritage reissue of the Skindiver from the 1960s, they offered it in two versions, automatic and professional version respectively. The automatic version was glazed with sapphire crystal, modern day specification. However, they appreciated that purist collectors would prefer the original as per Neil Armstrong's Skindiver World Timer version, and that was glazed with Hesalite. So what they did was they made two versions. The automatic had sapphire crystal, the professional version was true to the original, it had Hesalite. So then collectors had the option of both, sapphire or Hesalite. Wolbrook don't do that with this Skindiver, unlike Douglas. This is only available with sapphire crystal. In my opinion, it's the correct decision, but of course subjectively, purist Wolbrook and Douglas collectors would prefer Hesalite because it's true to the original. Bezel coin edge finishing is stellar. Nice and fine. Mirror polishing is excellent. I like its low profile. It's grippy and tactile and also very aesthetically pleasing. The case is rather like a tonneau case with milled slots in it for the end links. Brushed satin finish concentric CNC lathe tool machined to the top profile, and that complements the longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the flanks. Pierced lugs as per the original 1960 Skindiver, so that's true to the original. And also this is excellent because you can simply depress the spring bars externally with the spring bar tool to exchange the beads of ice bracelet for the Tropic strap included. Nice large bevel on the undercuts to the flanks, that deletes the sharp edge. I like that the flanks are low profile. They're not thick and slab-sided, so visually this does look similar to the original, although albeit it has been scaled up in proportion. The original Skindiver was 36mm, and of course in modern day specification that would be considered small, but in the 1960s 36mm was a popular dive piece size. Subjectively, one could say the Douglas Skindiver, which I previously reviewed, which is 38mm, is closer to the original at 36, and therefore purists will prefer the Douglas Skindiver version, the sister brand, versus this Wolbrook Skindiver, which is a scaled up version. This is 40, the Douglas Skindiver is 38. That's something to bear in mind. So, case is finished to perfection. Let's look at the beads of ice bracelet in detail. So, end links articulate freely, don't feel stiff or kink, that's good. They don't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side-to-side or up and down play. The end links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece and the profiling is correct. The beads of ice bracelet is manufactured by NSA, and to clarify and remind you, Wolbrook are the parent company of NSA. So, NSA made bracelets in the 1960s for a plethora of brands, including Hoya and Doxa. And although the bracelet class were branded with Hoya and Doxa respectively, they were in fact made by NSA in Switzerland. So they made bracelets from the 1960s through to the 1990s, and then NSA died out. And NSA has now been relaunched by Wolbrook, its parent company, and their bracelets are made in France now. So this bracelet and clasp are made by NSA, and you'll notice the similarity because the same NSA beads of ice bracelets are used on HGP divers, which I've previously reviewed, and also the Douglas Skindiver, which I've also previously reviewed. Same bracelet used on all pieces, albeit they do change the end links and also the clasp to brand them with W for Wolbrook and also HGP for HGP respectively. In terms of quality, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. It's not sloppy, it doesn't rattle, which is good. No sharp edge to the top edge or the low edge of the flanks, doesn't pull arm hairs, comfort level is excellent, feel good factor is excellent. What I like about it is it's brushed satin finish throughout, top side, underside and flanks. Unlike a Jubilee style bracelet, which has mirror polished centre links as per a Datejust for example, this has brushed satin finish centre links. And the thing I like about it versus a Jubilee style bracelet is the centre links in the beads of ice bracelets. They have ribs, and the ribs catch the light, and it's very aesthetically pleasing. This does visually look different to a Jubilee bracelet with mirror polished centre links. So I like the ribs. This is something one doesn't see on other beads of ice bracelets. For example, the beads of ice bracelet used on the Doxa Sub 300T, which I've previously reviewed, that has mirror polished centre links. I dislike mirror polished centre links on beads of ice bracelets because I think they give the bracelet a dress watch aesthetic versus a tool watch aesthetic for dive pieces. And what I like about this being brushed satin finish on the top side, underside and flanks, and even the three centre links being brushed satin finishes, this gives the piece more of a vintage aesthetic. It gives it more of a tool watch aesthetic. If it were mirror polished centre links, it would look too much like a Jubilee bracelet on a Datejust, not a vintage heritage reissue dive piece. So, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. It's not sloppy, no sharp edges. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, end link articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. Doesn't feel loose or sloppy, no excess lateral, longitudinal, side-to-side or up and down play. Articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't rattle, it's not sloppy, no sharp edge to the top edge, low edge of the flanks, and doesn't pull arm hairs. Let's look at the clasp. 2-button push, solid mill 316L grade stainless steel clasp. As I've detailed, I like the longitudinal ribs, embossed W for Wolbrook. 2-button push triggers are brushed satin finish, no sharp edges, opens freely. As you can see, if you look close, it says steel inox 316L, which denotes it's solid 316L grade stainless steel. And on the left, we've got NSA in the triangle and circle, which is the NSA emblem. As I've detailed, the bracelets and clasp are made by NSA, and that is owned by the parent company Wolbrook. Let's check the hinge pins. Left-hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Centre hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Finally, right-hand hinge pin, which is actually a spring bar, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Excellent. This is an example to other low-tier brands of how to get it correct between €0 and €500. Now, one has to appreciate we are at the upper end of the low tier, €449 on the Bezel Rice bracelet, but it is low tier nonetheless, €0 to €500. Solid mill 3160 grade stainless steel internals are excellent. Brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, no sharp edges to the top edge or the low edge. Centre section doesn't have sharp corners. All three hinge pins, left hand, centre and right hand hinge pins, articulate freely, don't feel stiff or kink, but they don't rattle. So this is an example to other low tier brands of how to get it correct. This is the benefit of this piece being assembled in France, quality control taking place in France, and as you can see, to remind you, on the front of the outer box we have the sticker saying clean for service. This indicates this piece has passed quality control inspection by MNP, Manufacture Horology in France. So this has passed QC inspection, including the bracelet. Excellent. Let's look at the case back. Solid 3160 grade stainless steel case back, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 150 metres. Now again, I'm going to be critical of this subjectively because the Douglas Skindiver, and as I've detailed, Douglas are the sister brand to Wolbrook. The Douglas Skindiver is also a heritage reissue of the original 1960 Skindiver, but that's 200 metres, and it does have the same caseback. The caseback is 10-sided. It's a dodecagon caseback versus an octagonal caseback, which is 8-sided. So dodecagon caseback, we have 10 flats. Milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well, but it's thick enough to be 200 metres. This has the same profiling as the Douglas Skindiver, which I previously reviewed, which is a 38mm, but it has the same similar tonneau case. Caseback has the same depth, same thickness. I'm absolutely confident this caseback could provide an effective hermetic seal to 200 metres. It's a screw-down caseback with enough thickness. There's no reason why Wolbrook have made this 150 metres. The original was 100, so it's not that they're trying to be true to the original Skindiver from the 1960s. The original was 100. This is 150. 150 is a rather odd water resistance rating. 200 metres is industry standard. Now, yes, it does meet the criteria, as I've detailed, of ISO 6425 because it is 100 plus, but they should have made this 200. So, concentric CNC lathe tool machined, which refracts the light, engraved with a Wolbrook W in the circle to high definition engraving, Wolbrook text logo, around the circumference it says assembled in France, automatic movements, sapphire crystal, all stainless steel, water resistant, 15 ATM. Excellent. What I like about it is it's smooth. The engraving is high definition, sharp and crisp, but it doesn't feel rough. That's the point. This is comfort. This is comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day, which is good. So it's a very smooth case back. The comfort level is stellar. The milled slots are deburred and chamfered very well. The concentric CNC lathe tool machining is excellent. It's low profile. That's something I like. It's not a deep case back. So this should be 200 metres, but it's 150. But on a positive note, this piece is only 13.3, even though it has a box top pack crystal. Quick release stainless steel spring bars are the correct choice in the end links of the Bezel Rice bracelet because that negates the need for a spring bar tool, but as I've detailed, nonetheless, we also have pierced lugs, holes in the lugs, so as an alternative to the quick release stainless steel spring bars, you can simply depress the spring bar externally through the pierced lugs. For example, changing the Tropic strap for the Bezel Rice bracelet is easy. Even though it doesn't have quick release stainless steel spring bars in the Tropic strap, you can simply depress the spring bar externally, so that's the benefit. Now if you look closely at this lug here, you can see it's actually engraved with a high definition shell, and what the shell refers to is that is the hexaplex emblem. Hexaplex shell is the emblem of hexaplex shock resistant architecture. So what does that mean? Hexaplex is the system used, the shock resistant architecture used to protect the movement used in this piece, the Miyota caliber 8315 automatic, from impact damage. So for example, this piece is a heritage reissue of the original 1960s Wolbrook and Douglas Skindivers. Now, they predated the use of crown guards. Original dive pieces from the 1960s often didn't have crown guards. They were a later innovation, and crown guards of course protect the crown from impact damage. When the case is impacted, it prevents shock being transmitted through the crown down the winding stem into the movement, and therefore knocking out the regulation, the calibration of the movement, the accuracy. So they serve a meaningful purpose as well as being aesthetically pleasing. This piece doesn't have crown guards, so as an alternative to that, it features hexaplex shock resistant architecture, and what that means is around the movement there is a movement holder ring which is made from solid 316L grade stainless steel, and on the inside and the outside of that movement holder, which is solid stainless steel, there are rubber shock absorbers, and the rubber shock absorbers insulate the movement holder, the movement, from the case. So what that means in effect is if the crown is struck with impact damage or shock, or the case is struck with impact damage or shock, the shock is not transmitted through the crown and the winding stem into the movement. And if the case is struck with impact damage or shock, the shock is not transmitted through the case, through the movement holder, into the movement and damaging it. It's actually isolated by the rubber shock absorbers, the hexaplex shock resistant architecture. And I've studied the design, I've studied the architecture of the shock resistance, and I can tell you the rubber shock absorbers is an effective system. Effectively, the movement holder in stainless steel around the movement, it floats inside the case. It permanently floats, it's not fixed. Usually movement holders are made from plastic and they're pressed into the case and then they lock into position, and then the movement locks into the movement holder and it's permanently fixed. Alternatively, often movement holders are made from stainless steel and they have 3 screws, and the 3 screws secure the movement holder inside the case, so it's permanently fixed. Negative of those aforementioned designs is because the movement holder is permanently fixed to the case internally, when shock is transmitted through the case or the crown, it also is transmitted through the movement holder into the movement and knocks out the regulation. But this is different, because the hexaplex shock resistant architecture means the stainless steel ring, the movement holder, permanently floats. It can actually move. And it's good because the rubber shock absorbers absorb the shock, but the shock is not transmitted through the stainless steel movement holder ring. It's isolated by the shock absorber. So it actually works very well. And as you can see, just bear with me, I'll move the minute hand out of the way. It says beneath Skindiver, it says shock resistant, and that refers to the hexaplex shock resistant architecture. Now, to confirm this, or to remind you, on the lug, this one, they've engraved the shell on this tip of the lug, and this is the hexaplex shell, and this confirms that this watch contains hexaplex shock resistant architecture. The hexaplex shell is the emblem of hexaplex. Good to get that included at this price point. One has to appreciate this is a low tip piece at €449, but it is incredibly shock resistant. Right, so let's test the screw down crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished. Nice large chamfer which deletes the sharp tips of the coin edge teeth. The cap is matte finished with B-blasted effect with the Wolbrook W in the circle emblem, so good to see it signed versus being sterile, correctly proportioned. It's large enough to be grippy and tactile. You can easily get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, but it's not too large to dig into the back of the hand when you flex the wrist. Let's test the execution. Silky smooth. This is sublime screw down crown execution. Minimal number of turns required to unscrew it. It feels very refined. Perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Machining, quality control, build quality tolerances are all there. So, when it's fully unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Miyota caliber 8315 automatic to its maximum 60-hour power reserve. Just think about that for a moment. Other 8000 series Miyota calibers, such as the 8215, only have a 42-hour power reserve. This does not have the industry standard of 40 hours. It does not have a 42-hour power reserve as per the 8215. This 8315 has a 60-hour power reserve, which is excellent. 60 hours from the 8315 is actually Miyota's highest power reserve of all their calibers. 60 hours is their ultimate, it's their maximum. Good to see 60 hours at this price point, €449. So, in terms of how it feels exactly the same to manually wind the 8315 as the 8215 because the architecture is the same. The 8315 is based on its predecessor, the 8215, but the only discernible difference in the architecture is this has a larger power reserve, 60 hours versus 42. They've also decorated it with milled stripes, which are like Coats de Genève on the main plate. The other notable difference is early versions of the 8215 did not hack, and then Miyota updated it and they introduced hacking. And at the same point when they updated the 8215 to have hacking, early versions didn't have it. In 2022, they then released this movement, the 8315, which is the successor because it has an increased power reserve and additionally hacking. So this has all the benefits. It has hacking like the later versions of the 8215, its predecessor, which it's based upon, and it also has decoration, milled stripes, but notably it has 60 hours versus its predecessor's 42. Now, the negative subjectively is it does take more manual winding. So to remind you, to put this into perspective, the 8215, which this is based upon, has the same architecture. When the mainspring is fully exhausted, when it stops dead on an 8215, 40 clockwise turns is enough to fully manually wind an 8215 to its maximum 42 hours. This has a higher power reserve, therefore the mainspring needs more turning to wind it up. This takes 51 clockwise turns. So the 8215 takes 40 clockwise turns. This 8315 with 60 hours takes 51 clockwise turns to manually wind it. But it's only an additional 11 clockwise turns. It's negligible. Putting it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. This is the negative of the 8315. It does have a date complication. The date wheel is still present beneath the dial. They haven't deleted it. Therefore, this has a phantom date setting position, a second position on the crown. That's something to note if you dislike phantom date setting positions. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement, and as I've detailed, this is the benefit of the 8315 being the successor to the 8215 released in 2022 because it does have hacking. Early versions of the 8215 did not hack, then Miyota updated it. They do have hacking from 2022 onwards. This 8315 has hacking, it's the successor. So hacks, one can set the time precisely to the second, which is good. We're now in the time setting position. Feels smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise. Now, it doesn't feel rough or gritty. Doesn't feel stiff, but it's not as smooth and refined as a premium 9000 series Miyota caliber, such as the 9015 and the 9039. I would prefer to see Wolbrook use a higher quality caliber in this piece. For example, the 9039 would be the correct choice because it would delete the phantom date setting position because the 9039 is the no date version of the 9015 respectively. I'm critical of it because they also produce the Douglas Skindiver, which I previously reviewed, and that is powered by the Miyota 9039, and it's 200 meters as I've detailed. The 9039 is a higher grade of caliber. It's a premium 9000 series. Deletes the phantom date setting position. The negative is it has 42 hours. This has better power reserve at 60, but 9039 is higher grade. It's equal to the SW200-1. Of course, one has to be mindful of the fact the Douglas Skindiver has a higher price point due to being powered by the 9039. This has a lower price point because it's 8315 powered. So one has to factor in the cost difference. But it doesn't feel as smooth and refined. In terms of the gearing, the meshing of the gearing doesn't feel as premium. It doesn't feel as smooth as the 9039 used in the Douglas Skindiver. That's something to note. It's not rough or gritty. It doesn't feel too stiff. And in terms of friction, it feels similar to a Seiko NH30A to a Seiko NH35A. Also feels very similar to the 8215 because it has the same architecture. There's no discernible difference. By feel, you could not feel that this isn't an 8215. The 8315 and 8215, there is no discernible difference. You cannot tell the difference from the feeling of setting the time. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click and that restarts the movement. Now, again, subjectively, the negative is it runs at 3 Hz. Now, you'll know from my previous reviews, I prefer 4 Hz sweeps because a 4 Hz sweep running at 28,800 vibrations per hour has a nice smooth sweep. So for example, the Miyota 9015 and 9039, my personal favourite calibers, they run at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. The benefit is 4 Hz has a nice smooth sweep which is aesthetically pleasing. The 8215 and this 8315 have a stutter or judder like the Seiko NH35A and the NH38 because they run at 3 Hz, 21,600 vibrations per hour, and it's just a characteristic of the 3 Hz sweep. It stutters or judders around the dial versus sweeping smoothly as a 4 Hz sweep. That's something to bear in mind. However, I appreciate for the majority of collectors it's not detrimental. They can live with a 3 Hz stutter or judder to the sweep. I personally would prefer this were powered by the 9039 as per the Douglas Skindiver that has a nice 4 Hz smooth sweep. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Instant thread pickup. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So outstanding. I would just like to see them update it to 200 metres versus 150. Yes, the screw down crown does meet the criteria of ISO 6425. It is 100 metres plus. It is a screw down crown versus a push pull crown. There's no reason why this isn't 200 metres. It is perfectly adequate for 200 metres. So it's a curiosity why they just made it 150 versus 200. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet. And I'm pleased to report this does come with a very long beads of rice bracelet. As you can see, I'm on position 4 out of 5, so I could actually extend it by one more hole on the clasp. This will easily fit up to a very large 9-inch plus wrist size. I can slide 2 fingers beneath it at all times, even with my large 8-inch wrist. So plenty of length on the bracelet, no concerns whatsoever. Particularly suitable if you want to wear this around a wetsuit and you have a larger 8-inch plus wrist size, or alternatively you simply have a larger 8 to 9-inch wrist, because there are enough removable links. So to clarify, there are enough removable links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet to size this down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size, and as you can see it will fit up to a very large 9-inch wrist size. This is something that HGP, Douglas and Wolbrook watches all have. They all come on very long beads of rice bracelets, and of course the bracelets are all manufactured by NSA in France, and Wolbrook is the parent company of the aforementioned, but plenty of length, that's the point. Perfection personified taper, 20 to 16, as you know, is the perfect taper for a 40mm head of the piece. Wrist presence is very satisfying. Now, to remind you, the original Douglas and Wolbrook Skindivers from the 1960s were 36mm, which of course by today's standards would be considered small for a dive piece. However, in the 1960s, 36 was popular. The Douglas Skindiver, which is a heritage reissue of the original, is 38. That will appeal to purist collectors because, of course, 38 is closer to the original 36. This is 40, so it's larger, and it will particularly appeal to collectors with a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist size because, of course, it's modern day size. 40 is contemporary for a dive piece. In terms of proportions, it is excellent. We have the perfect lug to lug, 48 lug to lug. You'll know from my previous reviews, 48mm is the perfect sweet spot. I often refer to it because 48 will perfectly fit you regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. 48 lug to lug is the industry standard for 39 and 40mm cases for good reason. It is the perfect sweet spot. So 40 diameter gives good wrist presence, 48 lug to lug is the perfect sweet spot. 20mm lug width is correct, and we have the perfection personified 20 to 16 taper. Thickness is also good, 13.3. Now, one has to appreciate this does have a box top hat crystal which adds 2mm of thickness, but 13.3 is good, bearing in mind it has a 2mm thick box top hat crystal. 13.3 is just a fraction above the 13mm sweet spot. So again, you'll know from my previous reviews, 13mm and below is the sweet spot because that means a piece will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So therefore, this is a practical daily wear piece as a result. At 13.3, it's just 0.3mm above the perfect 13 sweet spot. Curvature of the tonneau case is excellent. Nice curvature to the undercuts to the flanks. I like the pierced lugs, and I also like the concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the top edge and the longitudinal brushed satin finishing. The flanks are not thick and slab-sided, which is good. So visually it doesn't look too thick. Low profile coin edge bezel gives it a vintage aesthetic as per the original, and I like the concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the solid stainless steel bezel. The bezel makes a refreshing change from ceramic, sapphire and also aluminium bezel inserts. I like the way the concentric CNC lathe tool machining refracts the light. And of course stainless steel is scratch resistant, which is good. Black minute ticks are clearly legible and they complement the black Arabic numerals which are infill with BGW9 on the yellow dial. Legibility is good. Feel good factor is good. Comfort level is good. It feels very well balanced. Now, the thing to note is this is exactly 150 grams. Even though it does have a very long bracelet to fit a 9-inch plus wrist size. Pleasant surprise, because for a 40mm with a long beads of rice bracelet, I would expect this to be in excess of 150. I would expect it to be 160 to 165 grams, bearing in mind it has a very long bracelet. 150 is a pleasant surprise, so it feels balanced. The head of the piece doesn't feel top heavy. It doesn't feel like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. The lug to lug is perfect. The thickness is a fraction above 13. Lug width is correct. 40 by 48 is excellent. This will fit you if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist. This will fit you if you have a 7 to 8 inch wrist. Bracelet is fantastic. Beautiful luster to it, feel good factor is good, articulates well, doesn't feel sharp, doesn't scratch the wrist, doesn't pull arm hairs. Visually it looks good, also feels good. Has a real tool watch aesthetic. This does look and feel like a vintage 1960s Wolbrook Skindiver. Fantastic. I really like the yellow dial and also like the vintage aesthetic of the tonneau case, coin edge bezel and beads of rice bracelet. Just fantastic. Beautiful luster to the clasp, and the clasp has nice curvature, no sharp edge to the undercuts, perfect length, 5 micro adjustment holes does suffice, and I like the way the ribs catch the light. Gorgeous. So it's a great looking piece. Comfortable, looks good, wrist presence is good at 40, doesn't feel top heavy, feels very well balanced. Right, so let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. So we're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers on the inlaid triangle as an alternative to a lume pip on the solid stainless steel bezel, 5 to 6 layers on the printed Arabic numerals on the dial, and 5 to 6 layers on the handset. Good colour tone match between the lume pip, the printed indices and the handset, and I like the blue tone of the BGW9. Now subjectively, purist collectors would be critical of Wolbrook not using C3 superluminova because originally the Wolbrook and Douglas Skindivers from the 1960s used tritium, which of course was radioactive, but tritium glowed green in the dark, which was very aesthetically pleasing, and of course with time exponentially the tritium patinated, it developed a patina and turned peach tone, but nonetheless, the original Skindivers had a green tone to the tritium, and they could have replicated that very easily by using C3 superluminova, which would look very aesthetically pleasing. BGW9, of course, is more contemporary, and of course it glows very brightly blue. The potency of the exciter is good on the triangle, on the bezel, the Arabic numerals, and of course the handset. I would prefer green C3, but this is subjective. Some collectors like the contemporary standard of BGW9 because it has good performance. The potency of the exciter is stellar, but I think it would be more true to the original if it glowed green in the dark versus blue. I like the tritium of the original, I like the green tone of it, and of course I like C3 as a result because it looks like tritium. But quality of the application is good. Good colour tone match, potency is good, and the longevity is good. So they haven't used any production cost cutting measures. For example, applying 2 to 3 layers on the dial and 3 to 4 on the hands in order to reduce production costs per piece and maximise profit margin per piece. Right, so let's discuss the movement use because it's my favourite aspect of the piece. So as I've detailed, this is powered by the Miyota Calibre 8315 Automatic, which was released by Miyota in 2022. So at this stage in 2025, it's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Japanese calibre with 3 years of service. It's the successor to the 8215, so it shares the same architecture. The only notable difference is the addition of hacking, the decoration to the main plate, it has milled stripes, and of course the increase in power reserve. 42 hours of the 8215 has been increased with the 8315 to 60 hours. 60 hours is the main benefit, so that's very good. Had they used the 8215, that would be unacceptable at this €449 price point because the 8000 series such as the 8215 is basic. It's not good enough for this price point. One could argue the 8315 is acceptable because it has 60 hours, and of course that's the benefit. This doesn't have 42 hours as per the 8215, it has 60. 60 hours is high power reserve, and it is unusual to see a 60-hour calibre used at this price point in the low tier, 449. However, I'm going to be critical of it because, as I've detailed, for the aforementioned reasons, I prefer to see this powered by high quality calibers such as the Miyota 9039 because the sister brand Douglas are using it in the Skindiver I previously reviewed, albeit at a higher price point. It runs at it has 21 joules and it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. Has hand winding and hacking, which are used for complications. And it also has a quick set date complication. As I've detailed, the negative is it also has the phantom date setting position as a result. 60 hours is strong power reserve. Takes 51 clockwise turns versus 40 to manually wind it, as I've detailed. Stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day, which is a rather wide accuracy range. However, Wolbrook are doing a good job of regulating the 8315s they're using. They are regulating to a standard of ±15 seconds per day, which is better than the stated -20 to +40 wide accuracy range. However, ±15 isn't particularly impressive. although it is to be expected with the 8315. This one is running consistently at plus 6 seconds per day, which is excellent. So they're regulating in 5 positions to attain plus 6, which is good. Plus 6 is actually chronometer accurate. -4 to plus 6 is chronometer grade. So plus 6 from an 8315 is good, and it's well within the -20 to plus 40, and it's well within the plus or minus 15 that Wolbrook regulate to. So they're doing a good job. They're exceeding their plus or minus 15 stated accuracy. They're getting it to plus 6, which is chronometer level. Plus 6 in 60 hours is good. Hacking is good. The negatives I want you to be mindful of are it takes 51 clockwise turns, so a lot of clockwise turns versus the standard 40 to fully manually wind it to its maximum 60 hours. The second hand stutters or judders, it doesn't sweep smoothly as per 4 Hz, that's the other negative. Really the phantom date setting position is the main detrimental aspect, but I appreciate for the majority of collectors it's not detrimental, they can live with it. I would prefer this piece with the 9039 as per the Douglas Skindiver I previously reviewed. Yes, that's higher price points, but it's justified by the higher quality movement. The 9039 is premium grade. I would also like to see this 200 meters updated from 150, but that's just the way it is. So excellent movement. I like that it's 60 hours, it's reliable, it's well proven, and it is accurate. And although it does take 51 turns, a high number of turns to manually wind it, 60 hours is very good. If you wear this piece in rotation, it's particularly beneficial. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So lastly, there's one thing I need to do, which I haven't done, and that's check the bezel execution, and this will fully evaluate the piece. Nice firm resistance. Feels very firm. Firmer than a Seiko 5KX, more like a Steinhardt Ocean 139, which you may be familiar with. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. Feels nice and tight. Nice, loud, audible clicks. I love the sound of it and I love the feeling of it. This feels very firm. Feels reliable, feels robust. One can feel the click spring positively engaging with each of the 120 grooves in the underside of the solid stainless steel bezel. The bezel feels solid. It feels heavy. It has heft to it. Doesn't feel like a hollow bezel with an aluminium bezel insert, sapphire bezel insert, or ceramic bezel insert. This is solid 316L grade stainless steel. You can feel the density of it. Feels good, sounds good. Feels even all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation, doesn't get lighter or heavier. Finally, let's check the alignment. One more click. Perfect. The triangle, which is fully loomed, perfectly aligns with the triangle index on the dial and the 12 o'clock Arabic numerals. The 60-minute tick on the chapter ring also perfectly aligns. Perfect alignment. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, even through the 360 degrees of rotation, and firm resistance. Perfect alignment. Stellar. So I'm going to declare this excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point, €449. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Wolbrook Skindiver Automatic. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.